It was 4 a while ago. I think I'm maybe down to 2. Because if I can do twins, if I could do that, don't knock on my door.
That's the clock. That's the clock. That's the clock ticking. What you waiting on? Oh, you don't. I don't want to be I don't want to get personal, but you froze your egg.
I'm still bleeding, and I'm not in perimenopause.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not in perimenopause. My period comes.
You couldn't.
My menstrual comes every 28 days on time. On time.
No, you could have just said, you know what? Yeah, I froze my eggs.
Shannon, on time. That thing.
Like clockwork, huh?
Like that. Like, do that again? Like that. On time. Ain't no perimenopause over here. Ain't nothing dried up over here.
But how long are you willing to wait? Doc, look.
So
you look 22.
So I said earlier this year that I was now my choosing stage. And so I literally said, okay, I'm now going to choose because, I liked my space and my season of like building my career, coming out of calling off my wedding. And I was very honest with guys. I never said, manipulating, was like, oh, we dating to get married. No, I was very honest about, we're dating, spending time, but this is what I'm focused on.
Right.
And that focus paid off. And so I am now in a place that I told myself when I was a younger woman, I want to be here before I do that.
Right.
And
you're here now.
I'm here now. And this is the thing. I'm not saying this from a place of bragging or trying to, from arrogance, but from a place of humility. I think if more men and women map out their life is going to life. Now, it ain't going to come out perfect. But if you say, I want to reach these milestones before I do this, I feel like you have a better chance and better odds of success at family and at career and business versus just letting life give you whatever crumbs it gives you because it's already given the people like me who are asking and curating what we want. So you get the crumbs that we said no to.
Right.
Don't do that.
Right.
But now, it's only been probably about 6 months since I said, okay, God, I'm ready. I took my IUD out. I'm in my choosing stage. I'm ready to rock and roll.
You took it out.
I took it out. Gone. Out. The doctor, I said, show it to me. Doctor, show it to me. I was like,
hey, guys, be careful. She say she still have a cycle and
they ain't got to be careful.
So Dr. Cheyenne Bryant was recently on Club Shay Shay. And she did the thing that I like to call when women hold the truth and they withhold critical details. And you can say, well, her fertility is none of our business, Naka. But the problem is that Dr. Cheyenne Bryant has been open about so many other intimate details of her life. And when it came down to her talking about her fertility, because she's given us intimate details about what happens in her bedroom, she's talked intensely about her sex life, the lack thereof. She's given lots of information. So I thought it was interesting that when it came down to her essentially answering a simple question, which is yes or no, did you freeze your eggs or not? She was not able to answer this question. And she dodged this question like a bullet. And why this is important is that this is another area that I don't talk about a lot, but I also don't talk about it because I know how sensitive of a topic fertility is for so many women. But I do want in this video to highlight some important things about fertility and why women lie about their fertility. Okay. So there was an article that came out. Maybe it said something to the effect of women are now having babies over 40. So women over 40 are now having more babies, and they are actually having more babies than teenage moms. So the statistics has significantly shifted. I know for me, I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. At the time when I was living in Milwaukee, Milwaukee had the highest teen pregnancy rate in the country. And now it's actually women over 40 who are comprising a big portion, perhaps the majority of women who are having babies. But one of the things about statistics, and when people, write articles and do all that, there's always an angle that people take. And as your fellow media consultant, I am someone who pays attention to this. So what people do is they'll give you some information like women are now having more babies over 40, but they won't tell you how they're having the babies. And this is very important because one of the reasons why Dr. Cheyenne Bryant probably didn't want to answer Shannon Sharp's question is hidden in an uncomfortable truth about women and what it means to be fertile. And it's not even always about being fertile, but it's even about looking fertile. And I've talked about this before. This is why, one of the reasons why the BBL epidemic was so prominent is because women wanted the hips and, the lower part of their body to be full, because that hourglass shape, if you will, is associated with a woman being fertile. Now, there is no correlation between how curvy a woman is and how fertile she is. We all know women who have no breast, no butt, no hips, and they have a lot of kids. But I think this topic is so interesting because it's a sensitive topic for all women. And it's one that we kind of skirt around, and it's one that, especially as we age, we move into our 40s, it's a topic that we don't want to even be honest with ourselves about the reality of what really does happen, which is as a woman ages and gets older, the quantity and the quality of her eggs declines. Okay. And this is a truth for the majority of women. Now, what people like to do anytime I talk like this or talk about this is they like to point out the one or two people that they know who had a baby at 45. Well, I know this person and she had a baby at 45 and I know this other person. Of course, there are going to be outliers, and they're going to be women who were able to get pregnant naturally well into their 40s. But we all know that that is not typical. What is typical and what does comprise of a lot of the women in their 40s having babies has to do with the rise of fertility treatments, things like IVF. What is that called? Egg donors. All of the new technology and ways that now women can freeze their eggs. I personally felt as though this was very disingenuous on the part of Dr. Cheyenne Bryant as a woman who seems pretty forthcoming in every other way. But one of the things that, it was a missed opportunity for her to talk about how a lot of these women who are over 40 are able to have babies successfully. Because what I don't want her to do is to lead her audience, young women, lead them on believing that you can just wait until you're 42 or 45 and you don't need any medical intervention. You don't have to freeze your eggs. You don't have to do IVF. You don't have to do anything. You can just be in your 40s, decide, oh, I feel like getting married. Let me find somebody. Let me choose a man. And you can go do that. And lo and behold, just get pregnant. No problems, no complications. And everything is going to be fine. And you're going to ride off into the sunset. Now, are there cases of that happening to women? Of course. But I can tell you, I believe that that's probably the minority. And I can get so nuanced in this conversation right now because even if, like, I had my daughter at 28, I was almost 29, but I just remember, all the things we did, all the play dates and the museums and the parks and the zoos and, all that. And even the energy level of a woman in her 20s or 30s is going to be much different than a woman in her 40s. So that's another area where a lot of times women are not honest. Let's just keep it real about the 40s and how we feel. Many of us become tired of working, when we have to keep working, but a lot of us are tired. We're starting to think about retirement. We don't necessarily have the same energy that we had in our 20s. A lot of times we don't even really go out like that, and again, I'm not saying that you are going to be a bad mom if you have a baby in your 40s. I'm saying we need to have more honest conversations about what it really takes to be a dynamic parent and the energy you have to have. And the question is, let's not act like a 40-something-year-old mom is always able to do the same things that a mom in her 20s or 30s is able to do. And again, I'm not talking about outliers. I'm talking about the average woman. And you can say, well, if you're fit, if you work out, of course, all those things are going to increase the chances of you having a successful pregnancy in your 40s and increase the chances of you enjoying motherhood, because you're going to be able to be active and do all the things in your 40s, right? But again, we don't want to ignore the stats and the reality that many women in their 40s experience miscarriage. They worry about the babies that they're going to have and what different health issues, or potentially cognitive issues, learning disability issues, all of these things increase as the woman ages. And again, this does not mean avoid having babies in your 40s. It does mean let's not glamorize this. This should not be glamorized, okay? And yeah, I think it's disingenuous. I think it's misleading. I don't know why Dr. Cheyenne Bryant was unwilling to share whether or not she has frozen her eggs. Again, I know that this is none of our business, but she has given us so much of her business. So why in this one area is she unwilling to really get into it and talk about what's really going on? And I think my speculation is that this is rooted, her not wanting to share this information is rooted in the uncomfortable truth about fertility. And for her to admit, because she went straight into talking about her period and is that somewhat valid? Yes. But again, it doesn't negate the fact that the quality and potentially the quantity of her eggs are not what it used to be. And we have to understand that two things can be true. Women could be having more babies in their 40s than ever before. And the other thing that can also be true is that getting pregnant is difficult in your 40s. And being a mom, starting motherhood in your 40s is also difficult. Both of those things can be true. And I think, again, the sensitivity here and the uncomfortability is a woman in her 40s admitting that her body is not the same as it used to be. And I think this is unfortunate because there's nothing wrong with admitting that and owning that. I know that my body is not the same as it was when I was 25. My 43-year-old body is not gonna always do what my 25-year-old body would have done. But I think, because Dr. Cheyenne Bryant has not had any children, she has been pregnant, and that's, I talked about that before, but because she has not actually moved forward and had the babies, perhaps there's some, there's just like a level of shame around it for her. And it's like this need for her to prove that she's still fertile. That, it's almost like she, in so many words, wants us to believe that she doesn't need any medical intervention. She doesn't need any help. Dr. Cheyenne Bryant talks a lot about the weddings that she walked away from and called off. And the reality is she's 42 by the time she gets engaged, gets married, gets pregnant, and has the baby. She might be 44, maybe 45. And so I'm not convinced that just because she has a period, that is going to solve all of her fertility problems. And so I was looking for more transparency. Again, given the transparency that she's given us on so many other fronts. And I was disappointed with the fact that she was unwilling to go there. She's willing to go there in so many other areas, and she's willing. I mean, she practically read Shannon Sharp down and, told him about himself, gave him a whole therapy session about his whole life. But when it comes to her, I often see that she's not really willing to be honest about herself and where she's at and what's realistic. If you have not had a chance to do so yet, please check out my Amazon storefront. The link for my Amazon storefront is in the description box. Everything from books to soaps to shea butters to oils. Many of the products are Black owned. I also just added the NACA's favorite things section. In that section, there's everything from like the Keurig that I use, the juicer that I use. There's the ear pod, or not the ear pods or the earbuds that I use. So it's a very personal store, like all of the personal items that I use and that I love. So please check out my storefront. There is an affiliate link in the description box. And if you do purchase something, I will get a small commission. Like, share, and subscribe. Explore some of the other links in the description box. One being the Instagram link, because I am on Instagram if you are interested in following me there. I am also a YouTube coach. So if you are interested in coaching and or consulting to get started and grow your own YouTube channel, please do go to my website for that. And I would hope that you become a channel member. There is the Black and Invisible channel membership. For that, there are perks and benefits that you get if you become a channel member, and there is exclusive content just for channel members. So please do consider becoming a channel member. I am your host, NACA, and I am here to make the invisible visible about Black women. I highlight the things that Black women wouldn't tell you. And as always, stay tuned for more videos.